I'm sorry if you say this, Grandma, but your views are so outdated.
27 questions.
27 weeks.
27 pedestrians.
What do I think about boomers? I have complicated feelings about boomers. Like, I have a really emotional response to boomers because, it's easy to blame boomers for a lot of our world's problems. At the same time, that's the case for every generation, isn't it?
I think my favourite thing to come out of this year was the OK Boomer movement. It's really ironic because all the stuff that boomers give us a lot of crap for is the stuff that they were doing. They were rocking mullets and these hideous fluoro floral colours and patterns well before we were doing it. They were, well, not to generalise, but boomers were probably in a bit more of a crazy party phase in this, like, through their era, spending money on God knows what, and we're getting in trouble for spending it on avocado on toast instead of houses. I think the times have changed. We're not getting married at 18 anymore. We're not getting married at 16 anymore. We're allowed to spend our life doing what we want a little bit more, get serious a bit later. I think it's what they wanted for us anyway. But then when we start doing all this sort of stuff, they like to throw it back in our face and they're like, oh, grow up. So I think sometimes they should learn to relax a little bit and maybe they can think to grow up a little bit too.
Jesus Christmas. Listen, the majority of them can just get in the fucking bin. I mean, there's good and bad in everyone. I think that regardless of age bracket, there's people that just refuse to sort of grow as a person or to learn new things. And the boomers are big on that.
Look, everyone's from a different time. There's a balance between you're from a different time. So in my experience, the attitudes and perceptions of disability from, say, like, I had a conversation with my grandmother a while back, and she made the point that, back when she was my age, people in my position were in, like, institutions and were, like, locked away from society, or if they were out, it was a surprise, or if they were out, they were with someone and, like, taken care of. So I think everyone's from a different time, but on the flip side of that, if you're alive now, you have to, like, open yourself up to what is acceptable now with terminology and perceptions, and try and best educate yourself and progress.
People in general frustrate me immensely, and I could probably pick out the same amount of things that piss me off about Gen Z that piss me off about boomers. So, like, they can be very annoying, of course, and times were very different when they were young as well, so I think their opinions of things are often outdated. But at the same time, we fuck a lot of shit up as well.
Like, I've got family in that category, and as much as I love them, they're the reason I go home for Christmas and stuff, and you're like, oh God. Because there's a clear generation gap. They grew up in a different period of time to us, and I am a body positive, lesbian, like, activist, and I go home and my family they don't understand. So I think boomers can do a bit to educate themselves on the current state of the world, but also from the flip side, that we could probably show them a little bit more respect.
As a Gen Z, I just kind of can't wait for them to go, in a way, because there's a lot of traditional values that have just kind of made the world not as free to live in. The racist boomers, I kind of can't wait for you to go. And I really honestly can't wait for even the generation after me, like the one coming up, because they're so switched on. These kids are so switched on, open-minded, understanding, not judgmental. And I feel like the world will be a better place.
Everyone kind of hanks shit on boomers because they own everything and they may have destroyed the environment and they may have also destroyed the economy. And, like, with good reason, there definitely were, but there's also people inside of that demographic that created the foundations of a lot of, like, activism and a lot of revolutionary, like, ideals that we take for granted today. On the flip side, when you look at millennials, at least, we're responsible for Mark Zuckerberg. We're responsible for Twitter. We are going to eventually have to confront the fact that we grew and matured and created systems that basically tore down all of democracy.
So my nana is a boomer. She's born in 44. She's amazing. She's awesome. She's really cool, open-minded. Took my mum and my auntie to the first ever Mardi Gras. But I feel like she maybe is an exception to the rule. And I mean, I haven't had individually bad interactions with boomers, but I feel the type of mentality of some boomers that we're not working hard enough and we expect everything handed to us and back in my day kind of stuff is a bit reductive.
I think they get a bad rap Like, I think that people write off boomers too quickly, saying like, oh, they're ignorant, they're uneducated. But I actually think there's a lot to learn from the older generation. I think it's easy for Gen Z to pin blame on the previous generation, but like the world turned out how it did just because of the circumstances. Like, it's no one's fault.
I love old people. You either love them or hate them. You've got like your sweet old people that just everyone loves, or you've got like your old people that everyone hates. There's never any in between. There's like one old lady on each block that everybody either loves or hates.
I honestly don't want to have a huge generalization about like a certain group of people because, like every group of people, there's good and bad. Possibly the loudest ones are the ones that should be quiet. But in general, I don't want to say all boomers are bad because hell, man, we've all got family that are boomers. Look, I do think they left the younger generation in a state that it's going to take a lot of time to bounce back from. And unfortunately, the boomers are the ones that are still in control. So it's like a eventually ending battle to sort of start improving the way we're doing things.
I do think the stereotype of boomers maybe having like a different experience with money than we did at our age is probably quite true. That's the thing I notice the most in conversations. When I talk about finance, for example, with people I care about in that generation, there's the realization that maybe I'm not going to have the same opportunities they did at that age. Like, I might not own a house at the same age they did. That can definitely get a little bit frustrating, that kind of like quality of life thing.
As a person who's a part of minority culture, I feel like they did pave the way for us quite a bit in helping us frame what we can fight for today. Do we align on everything? No, we don't. I think between boomers and millennials, there's always a heated debate around current topics, which I think is a helpful thing. Sometimes it can be a bit negative, sometimes it can be a bit destructive. Do I feel like we're starting to separate a bit? I think we are, and I think that's the way the relationship was always going to end up, just because I'm just like, we're all not going to be on the same page forever, and I think that's kind of what makes conversations so diverse.
Like, I don't want to make assumptions on a group of people just based on when they were born, but there's definitely some work to be done. I think there's a lot of ownership over a future that they are not necessarily going to be a part of anymore, and that they should be listening more to the generations that are going to be a part of this next stage of the world, if we get it, if it doesn't go down in flames before them. So I reckon, like, just take a step back and just give us a second of the reins, because we're still figuring it out. They've left like a little bit of a mess for us. I'm not going to blame them completely for the fact that there's no job or housing market or anything like that, because I'm totally not bitter about it. But I do think the boomer generation, like, they're okay. They just need to step back and let us handle it for a little bit, because we haven't had the opportunity to really try.
I think I absolutely hate boomers. And I say this from a perspective where, like, I love my parents. Like, don't get me wrong, but I think it's just one of those things where boomers are just those people who aren't open to like progressive views or changing our society for better. So that's what I think of boomers.
I have a lot of mixed feelings on boomers. I think they are so old. They're so old. Even my grandma, I love her so much. I'm sorry if you see this, grandma, but your views are so outdated. I don't actually think that if boomers are going to die within like the next 5 years that they should be able to vote, because it's just, you're not going to help anyone.
I don't know. Boomers, I think, are more of a meme than they are anything else. I think they're fine. There's obviously some bad apples in there, but just like my generation or anyone else's generation, you know, shades of grey, 50 shades of it.
I think that their generation that fails to recognise the unique circumstances that other groups of individuals find themselves in. It's very much like self-centered, and this is what we had to deal with, so you should have the exact same experiences we did. Not true. The world's changed.
I mean, they came through a really tough time. You can blame them for things that you think might have messed up how we are, but, you know, we're also not going about things the right way at the moment. We've got more opportunity than they had, but they've done a pretty good job to get us to where we are now, and we just got to do our job to make us go further.
I definitely think there is a a massive difference in opinions of the generations and their opinions. Like, you just have to talk to them and they'll say things like, well, she was wearing a short skirt, she was obviously asking for it. And that is their mindset, and that is the mindset of the whole generation. For the most part, I think it's just the culture that they were brought up in, that you just can't change their mindset. You can't change how their brains are wired.
My grandparents all passed away when I was really young, and I only really had a relationship with my grandfather, and he passed away when I was 8. So growing up in an environment without that older influence, I actually think has been challenging, and I've always wanted it because I never really had that in my own life. So like, I think boomers are great and we should embrace them and let's hang out.
As a millennial, I find myself disagreeing with boomers a bit. As someone who doesn't mind the idea of change, as someone who is pro-change, very, very often I find myself butting heads with my own mum, for instance, about topics that we disagree upon, and it's respectful and it's designed to sort of educate as much as it is to sort of put my own opinion across. The difference in thought is not necessarily born of hate or of any malice or anything like that. It's just the way that people are raised and how your priorities change over the course of time. So I don't have anything against boomers. I just don't necessarily agree with what they agree in, because their opinions, their priorities have changed over time. I mean, the things that they were passionate about when they were young, equally so I'm passionate about plenty of areas in my own life because I'm a little bit younger and I've just got more things to sort of worry about than they do.
To be honest, I'm sorry to break it to you all, but I don't really think about you. I know that we plague your thoughts and you want to talk shit about us, but I don't know. I don't think about you. That's all.
I don't know if I've got a genuine opinion on this. I feel bad.
I think there's a big mix of attitudes and people that live in their bubble and people that keep up with the times. But I do sometimes feel that there is a little bit of disconnect.
Yeah, I think the hate against boomers, I understand it's funny as a meme and they've sort of contributed to this system that has ultimately affected us, all the young people, in a really devastating way. But also, I don't know, not all boomers, not all boomers.